Hi there, and welcome back to Good Distinctions. I'm your host, Will Wright, and Good Distinctions are the spice of life. I'm joined today by Sammie Carel. Sammie, welcome to Good Distinctions.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So I guess we'll start sort of biographically. Who are you, and what do you do?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a wife and mother, and I'm also the education coordinator for Life Choices Women's Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona. Most of my job is going to give pro-life presentations to different parishes, schools, and youth groups. And I have a lot of other things I do, like coordinate volunteer opportunities. I'm hosting a couple of pro-life retreats, stuff like that. And I did have a podcast for a bit. I recently retired that. I tried to hang it up. We'll see if it comes back, but that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. And are those videos still available for folks to watch, or the audio rather, podcast?
Yes, if you go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, I actually don't think Anchor is a thing anymore, but Google, it's all there. It's called the Steadfast Podcast. It's actually Steadfast, a pro-life podcast, because there's a lot of steadfast Christian podcasts, because, you know, we all have to be anchored. So
Excellent. So not to start too broad, but what does it mean to be pro-life? And I know that's kind of a large question, but I think it's something that's pertinent because everyone listening will hear that and they'll immediately go, okay, this is a political episode. And I want to say from the outset, this is not a political episode. This is about being a human being, actually. So what does pro-life mean to you? Like, what does that moniker actually entail?
I think that if I had a thesis statement for the pro-life movement, it is that we all want to be seen, known, and loved, and that every human life is valuable at every stage. I always say to teens that we are womb to tomb people. We can make that into a great bumper sticker, you know, someday. Womb to tomb people. Most of the time when people hear pro-life, they immediately think babies, abortion, but it's also talking about issues, you know, in the middle of your life, also particularly at the end of life, and making sure that everyone has the dignity that God has given them. Essentially, to be pro-life, you believe that every single person has inherent dignity and we should be treated thusly from womb to tomb.
Yeah, well, St. John Paul II talks about all sorts of things in Evangelium Vitae and the Gospel of Life. He talks about abortion and euthanasia, but I mean, Catholic social teaching also covers work and the rights of workers, and those are life issues. Because again, it's everything that life touches. What does human life entail? Well, it is everything from womb to tomb and everything in between. And I think a lot of the times the pro-life movement might get a bad rap as being singularly focused on one issue. But I think that's more a matter of maybe the climate of the day is just that abortion is the preeminent issue, as the U.S. bishops put it in a document a couple of years ago, that it is a priority because if we don't have the right to life, we have nothing. It's the foundational basis of everything that we have. And again, this isn't political. It's not just as Americans. I'm talking about natural law. We don't have any other rights, any natural rights without, you know, being alive. And so I think it's a fairly common sense thing and very much based on human dignity, just the fact that this is a human rights issue more than a political issue.
And it's also not a woman's issue. It's a human
thank you
issue.
for saying that. So I wondered if people listening might go, well, why is he talking? Well, first of all, don't assume my gender. Thank you. No, just kidding. The beard's a dev giveaway. But
no, I don't know. I saw a quote pregnant woman with a beard.
What a world we live in.
So, Jesus, you can come anytime now.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready. I went to confession not long ago. So yeah, we do live in confusing times, and there's a lot of different issues that are all sort of entangled together. And so you give these talks all over the place. What sort of people, I shouldn't say what sort of, who do you encounter? What groups of people do you encounter most?
I mostly speak to teenagers, and they are usually Catholic, but I did just go to like Valley Lutheran High School, which was interesting. And I went to a Catholic high school. And unfortunately, just because you go to a Catholic high school does not mean that you are remotely Catholic or even have any respect for Catholicism. So that's kind of where I see a lot of the kids that are kind of glaring at me, not very happy with me. But then I also have spoken to parishes, to Newman centers. I've given some talks on retreats, and we actually have done some presentations for preschool to sixth grade, and that is hard. I'm not even allowed to say the words pro-life, or pro-choice. You don't talk about abortion to a 5-year-old, but yeah, so primarily teenagers and young adults, but I have been able to speak to people about this from, 5 years old to like 92.
And it does matter what the audience is composed of. I mean, it matters who's out there. It matters who's listening. I imagine that would change the way that you're speaking, not just in like the words that you can say or not say, but I imagine even sort of the tact that you take or the different angles. Like, speak to that a bit, maybe. Like, how does it change?
So I'm an English major.
The Lutheran school that you went to.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I was an English major. I love rhetoric. So I usually, even when I was a youth minister for 6 years, whenever we would do these hot topic nights, I would go ethos, pathos, logos. And then I would be like, Theos, God, here we go. But I would primarily try to walk them through science, logic, and give them some emotional arguments as well. And then bring in the theological arguments. But for example, actually primarily I give a lot of science, credibility, philosophy, logic. I kind of keep it there. And then at the end, I point out to them, hey, did you notice that I didn't have to bring God into this because it's not a religious argument? And then add, of course, if we do add God into it, it gets even better and the argument becomes even more rock solid. But I was really sticking to science and logic, especially for the Catholic kids, especially when context, I already know that these kids hopefully are being told to abstain and hopefully already are pro-life, honestly. They just don't know how to respond to some things. So I'm trying to help them be able to defend the pro-life stance. But then when I went to Valley Lutheran, I was really trying to take more of the still philosophy and logic, but a bit more emotional arguments as well to try to help them get their hearts there, I think, to realize. I just gave this example to a bunch of kids. There was a video on live action on their Instagram, and it just made me, I think I had to get off Instagram for a couple days. Like I just couldn't handle it. It was this young man standing outside of Planned Parenthood crying, trying to say, stop her, please don't let her go in. Abby, don't kill her baby, don't kill our baby. And that video, I mean, like you show that video to some kids that are pro-choice, and at the very least, it's going to get them thinking. And I mean, you automatically feel his pain, so it kind of, I don't want to lead with emotion. I never like leading with emotional arguments because I don't want to manipulate the crowd by tugging on their heartstrings. I want to give them solid facts and logic, but it kind of depends on the group of people to kind of get them started. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I teach high schoolers and I teach Western Civ, and so it's like basically 1450 to present day. So we're talking about the Enlightenment. We're talking about all of the different supposed conflicts between faith and reason, and it's difficult to have that conversation because in some ways they're very jaded to even approach this argument. They say, well, faith is over here, reason's over here, and they shouldn't mix. And religion's something I do, but I don't want to force it on anyone. But there's a lot of things you just said there that I'd like to unpack. So I'll kind of, there's three things and I want to kind of take them piece by piece. So the first was, you said that the pro-life movement is not a religious movement necessarily, right? You don't have to bring in the theological, and you don't. It's true. But I was talking to one of my good friends who's a youth minister currently, and he just, I don't know how serious he was being at the time, but he said, well, of course it's a Catholic issue. And I said, well, that's interesting. But what he meant was that there's so much. I think it's the same sort of thing you were saying. Like, it makes it better. It adds more
Mm-hmm.
power in some ways. And so at first I kind of recoiled like you just did, and I'm like, well, no,
Yeah. I'm
it's
on
about
tag. You're like,
logic, dang it.
give me
It's
his
about
name.
it's about science and facts, which is true. I mean, I know the March for Life a couple of years ago was pro-life is pro-science. Like, that was the
Mm-hmm.
tagline, and it's true. We have science on our side in the pro-life movement, absolutely, because we know when life begins. The biological conditions for life are all there. It's incredibly clear. And maybe we can get into sort of some different argumentation and a little bit later. But some of the other things that you mentioned about, okay, we don't want to go for emotional arguments all the time, but they do have their place. And I think it just points to this fact that we are body and soul. We have emotions for a reason. And sometimes what we see as emotions might actually just be the stirrings of our soul. It's a spiritual reality of compassion, maybe of solidarity with that young man that you saw in the video. I saw that video too. And you're moved by it, but I think it's deeper than just emotionally. I think there's a real connection, a human connection, where it's like, wow. I mean, I know I feel that with the unborn, these preborn babies that have no voice are human beings, and I think that's really foundational, obviously, to any conversation that we'd have with anyone. Is are the preborn members of the human race or not? Are they human beings, human persons, or not? Because if they are, then we probably shouldn't murder them. And if they aren't, well, then who cares? We'll move on. New topic, new
Yeah.
issue.
Even with just that, I feel like when the kids do have emotions, sometimes I feel like it's partially they're fighting it because they don't want to feel it. They don't want to agree.
Mm-hmm.
What I have seen across the board of teenagers, and I was going to get into this later, but I'm going to get into it now, is that they are very, very passionate about human rights. And so you pretty much just have to get them on board about when a human is a human. And it's once you get them to know it's at conception, 96% of biologists say life begins at conception. And, you know, we look at Mars and, oh my gosh, we found one cell. So there's life on Mars. And like, oh, like we're upset about somebody killing a pregnant elephant and like all this stuff where it's like we are pro-life for everything except for this topic. And once you get them on board with no, it's a human immediately, then you can kind of really ensnare them and impassion them because of they're so passionate about the human rights issues, which I do love about Gen Z, that they want a cause to rally for or rally against too, unfortunately. And so sometimes I feel like well, no, not sometimes. What I usually say in my presentations is that, you know, everyone before you has always said we're the pro-life generation, and in reality, this new generation has so many more capabilities than we ever did. Even, I mean, like I don't know about you. I'm 32. I've got plenty of time, but social media is just so far ahead. I mean, like we didn't have social media in high school, and science technology is just, we couldn't do this when I was in high school. You know what I mean? We couldn't have this video chat. And so I think that when they start to realize like the power that they have, like the capabilities they have to actually make a difference in the pro-life movement, it's beautiful to see them get inspired.
I'm also 32, and we had a MySpace top 8 and a theme song that you could pick. So come on. We did have social media. We had the best social media.
Okay, that's true. That part is true. I meant more like, you know, we didn't have to document every part of our lives in the photos. We didn't have picture, like we couldn't take pictures at any time until like later in high school.
One of my students told me that one of her TikToks went viral, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like you got a few thousand views? She got 500,000 views.
Oh my gosh.
Like 500,000. And I'm like, what was it? She was like, I'll show you after school. I'm like, okay. So she goes and gets her phone,
Uh-oh.
shows me. It's literally her lip syncing to a song and
What?
like making a sassy face, and she's got some makeup on. And I'm like,
Oh no.
500,000 views? So I see this and I'm thinking to myself, this is nuts. Why can't Good Distinctions get views like that? Was the
Right?
first thing
That's what
I
I was
said
thinking too.
out
I was like,
loud.
oh man.
And she was like, don't worry, you'll get there one day, Mr. Wright. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Oh.
But like, shut up, kid. But it's funny because they absolutely have a real platform to share these things instantaneously. And you've had, I mean, we have some of that where I think it was Justin Bieber is very actively pro-life and
No, he's
shares a
not.
lot of things.
No, he's
Is he
Christian.
not?
He all the time. It's like, it's Haley's body, whatever, and then Haley
Okay,
will
well,
say
he
Haley is
was before he was
okay.
married.
Well,
I
Haley is
haven't
literally
followed him
like
lately.
the face of Planned Parenthood. Like she just posted like he's the face, one of the faces like supporting. And I've heard him in an interview say like, "Oh, it's Haley's body, it's her choice." I'm
That's
like, "You're
so
Christian,
upsetting.
dude." It's so upsetting. But I do love how,
Because he used to be
totally
very
going off on a
pro-life.
Bieber tangent. I do love how but he's still very Christian. I remember I literally heard new Christian worship songs because of watching Justin Bieber's Instagram stories or lives or whatever. So he's still, and he's very outspoken about his faith. I think that I'm going to say something kind of mean. I think he's just being
Do
a
it. Say
coward.
it.
He's a coward.
Yeah, there it is. There it
He
is.
needs to just grow. I'm not going to say that, but he needs to stand up. I think
He
he's
does
scared.
need to grow some balls. He does.
He
Absolutely.
does. He
See,
needs
I'm
to
a
grow
man.
a
I can say
pair.
that. It's a man's
I know,
issue.
he needs to grow a pair.
No, so that's really upsetting, but also a really good example of the impact that people can have on each other. Because I'm telling you, I remember seeing an interview with him where he was saying that he was completely against abortion. He didn't even just say he was pro-life. He was like, abortion is wrong, period. And it's like, yeah, Justin, you got it, man.
Yay.
Okay, clearly that's changed,
There's hope.
but hopefully it'll change back.
I think he's very careful about it. Like I don't think he ever says that he's pro-choice. I feel like he just basically is always just trying to look like I'm respecting Haley's decision. But then Haley's just straight up just like posting, like she's like on Planned Parenthood's like Instagram or something. I don't know. But anyway.
So on that topic, what do you think is going through their minds when it comes to Planned Parenthood? Because I guess I'll put it this way. When the Dobbs decision came down, which was a great day, a lot of people I saw on social media were absolutely authentically terrified that they were going to die because they didn't have access to abortion. Grossly misrepresents the laws, because it's not saying that if a woman has a miscarriage, then she can't have a DNC. That has nothing to do with an elective abortion. So I just think it's insane. But anyway, enough of me rambling on about how insane it is. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what are people actually thinking?
So I had a lot of people reach out to me as soon as that happened, because I try to be very, not like I'm clearly pro-life, but I don't go controversial, or like I'm not going to post like, yay, we won. Like I'm not going to rub it in people's faces. I'll like post information. So when like that happened, I was like posting like facts, and that is when people like pro-choice people will actually reach out to you. Because if you're like, woohoo, like guess what, all you pro-choicers, you suck, no one's going to talk to you or actually have a good conversation. So I did get some people reaching out, and it was the people that were freaking out about how they had a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy and how they were going to be left to die. And I immediately, you just go to Arizona State Legislature and you look it up, and it's like, oh, look, it says does not include miscarriage management or ectopic pregnancies. That being said, we still should be not just like popping an abortion pill for an ectopic pregnancy. That's like a different thing. There's a surgery, and we can get into that, the ethics of that later. But especially when
That's
mom's life
another
is in danger.
podcast. I don't know if we have time.
but
for
mom's
that one.
life in
But
danger is one of the big
yeah,
objections. So,
yeah, fair
um,
enough.
so yeah, so they, yeah, I think that objection wise, they were all coming from a place of fear because there wasn't a lot of information. And I did look at other states' laws, and some of them are really unclear. Some of them are creepily clear. Like Colorado is like, yes, this is a life, this is a human, and we are going to kill it. It's like so, like okay,
Hmm.
and so I think that a lot of it was misinformation, a lot of responding from fear, thinking that they were going to be left to die, and people, a lot of people played on that fear even today.
Hmm.
People magazine or whatever, I don't know, like Apple News, it popped up on my Apple News today that people magazine was interviewing these ladies who almost died because they weren't allowed to have an abortion. And I'm sitting there like, this woman is talking about how she only had like 2 or 3 days left to live. And I'm like, but you're giving this interview. So I have questions. And I really think that the media really plays into everybody's fear, especially
Yeah.
fear of death. And it's a culture of death anyway. So yeah, that's my long answer.
It's very disingenuous, and it's not based in fact. And it seems like every time I've had a conversation with someone who's pro-choice, there are serious things that they are misinformed about. I mean, I'm always willing to assume good intentions, and it's difficult, I think, for people, especially folks who identify as pro-life, because they say, well, how could I possibly uh, understand someone who wants to kill babies? And it's like, well, I get it emotionally. I've said it in private, um, like when I'm
And
really
now publicly.
upset, and now publicly that I've said it in private. But I'm not going to say that to someone. And when I look at it and I examine it more, I'm like, okay, I don't actually think that. Mostly because that used to be me. I mean, when I was in high school, I had a rather misguided attachment to a certain news network, CNN, and it was not a good phase in my life. I'd watch headline news like every morning, mostly because Robin Meade was like my crush when I was in freshman year. Anyway, whatever. But like that gets to you. You watch it every day, and you sort of start drinking the Kool-Aid. And I was Catholic, but I was going to church and I was going to youth group, but I kind of had this bifurcated life where I would say, well, I'm Catholic, and then I'd think things that were completely opposed to the faith. Like saying I'm against abortion, but I'm politically pro-choice. Well, what the heck does that even mean? I didn't know at the time, really. But I held that. I was like, I can't tell a woman what to do with her body, which is a objection that's ridiculous, because I'm not talking about the woman's body. I'm talking about a baby, which is another human being, but we can talk about the objections later. Anyway, I just want to say that here's how so you talk about tactics. When I was in junior year, a district court judge came to talk to our youth group, and he was a member of the parish, great guy. And he gave a talk on life issues, abortion, euthanasia, a couple other things. And he basically just said, look, it's not open to us to be in favor of abortion in any way, shape, or form. And I thought, this is so strange, because I was really big into history at the time. I ended up getting a history degree, but I'm thinking, okay, this is a district court judge. Surely he has to be impartial. Surely he has to understand there's a separation of church and state. And like, my little teenage brain couldn't fathom how wrong I was on a lot of these points. But I went up to talk to him after the talk, and I said, Judge, I really appreciated what you've shared here, but I don't think I can tell a woman what to do with her body. And he just lit into me. I mean, he was, we're in North Carolina, by the way, so he was yelling in Southern, and it was loud,
Terrifying.
and there's like 100 people around me, and I'm just like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And he's saying, you don't get to say that. We have to defend life from the moment of conception until natural death. And that's part of being a man. It's part of being a Catholic. And basically get your head out of your ass was the gist of the conversation. And once I sort of took a breath and recovered from that, I was like, wow, he's got a point. Okay, I guess I need to get off the fence. And for me, that's really all it took. So I went more or less from being more left of center, like I'm going to be in line with, I guess, what the Democratic Party today would look like, to sort of switching gears entirely and saying, nope, it's never okay under any circumstances to willfully and intentionally kill another human being, murder another human being, innocent life. So it's like, okay, well, that's a big change. So that was how I came to become more pro-life. And obviously it's been a while since then. We've already outed ourselves about our age, and I feel like I'm getting older as every moment goes by.
Yeah. When I looked up what the slang, why are people saying, oh, she ate? I'm like, what? Why?
I mean, she did really well,
I know. I kind of figured that out from context, but I Googled it anyway because I was trying to prove a point to my dad.
I love teenage slang, but and maybe that's also pertinent to our conversation, because it's like, how do you communicate to these people what you actually want them to understand? And sometimes that takes hearing it in their own, I don't even know if vernacular is the right word, but their own slang.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but at least like you have to be approachable and like look like this is going to sound so silly, but literally I don't wear skinny jeans when I give presentations to
Smart.
teenagers. Yeah.
Smart.
Because I'm like, they will literally be like, you millennial. And like, just like think like automatically my credibility will go down. So I show up looking like a teenager, not always, but but they automatically are like, okay, maybe she's hip. Except that she used the word hip, so that means that she's not.
What a very important and vital episode we're providing to people.
I
Listen,
know.
everyone listening, skinny jeans are out, mom jeans are in, flared the better.
But what about
it's
boots?
ridiculous.
Yeah, we could go on. I could go on quite a bit.
Uggs are still in fashion somehow.
What
That's
the
made a
heck?
comeback.
Platform shoes. Stop, everybody. These
I
are all.
know.
And then the worst was when I saw the zigzag part was back.
Yes.
And I sent it to my friend who's 20, and I'm like, "What is this? Why
are
is it
you
back?
doing it?
Is it back?" And she's like, "Oh, it's so in right now. It's like a TikTok trend." I was like, "No. Do you know how hard it is to do zigzag? Like, we did it first, man. We did it way back when, and there's a reason why it died. Let it stay dead." Yeah.
But authenticity. So authenticity is very important, though.
Yes, and also teenagers are good at seeing that you're a hypocrite.
Right.
That sounds bad, but like they can call you out. They see you, so that's part of it too. Is that like you're not just like authentic. You're authentic, but you really need to watch yourself. Like especially like I am now a public speaker, right, for like my job. I need to like watch my behavior or my language. Like I don't know. Like I feel like teenagers can see right through your BS, and they know when people are full of it. And so I think that's another thing that I, especially when I'm like looking at people to maybe do a presentation with me or to come on a retreat. It's like I need to make sure that it's like the whole walking the talk, talking the whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's when you get up in front of a group of teenagers or anyone really. I mean, I feel the same way around adults. Like if you don't give them exactly who you are, then you've lost credibility before you even open your mouth. So it is super important to be authentic. But also at the same time, like here at Good Distinctions, we care about like, the spice of life being good distinctions. So maybe you don't wear your skinny jeans, but you can't go full mom jean because they'll know what you're doing. And so you got to find something in the middle somehow. So like, that's a silly example, but it's clearly something that you've had to deal with. I just wear the same old thing,
I
and no one
know.
cares
Rub it
because
in.
guys don't get that kind of scrutiny. But when I'm speaking, I absolutely have to change how I'm talking depending on who the audience is, which I know we've already brought up, but it's important to reiterate. Like when I'm with my teens in class, I will use their slang because they know I know it and they know how to use it properly. But I
Hmm.
have coworkers who, if they tried it, it would not work because they
Yeah.
can't use it properly and it would just like drop like a lead balloon. So, but then when I'm with adults, I actually have to catch myself sometimes. Like, okay, I can't say that because
Hmm.
they won't know what the heck I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, what did you say the pro-life movement is about? It's about being
Seen, known, and
seen,
loved.
known, and loved, right? So if you see people and really see them, then that means having solidarity with them. And that is difficult, kind of going back to this, well, for pro-life people to look at those who are pro-choice, those who have these views that frankly we hold to be abhorrent. I mean, I can't say anything positive about the practice of abortion. Uh, and so it's difficult. Like, how do we find ways to speak about it without saying something inflammatory and off-putting? Like you said, stick to the facts. Um, but I don't
Hmm.
think it's overly emotional to say, like, and this one's gotten me in trouble on social media, like saying abortion is technically speaking murder.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that's a fact. It's not my opinion, but my friends who are pro-choice just will shut me down. They won't even allow a conversation after I say that. How can we approach people with the truth, like such that saying abortion is murder? Like maybe we don't say those exact words, but how can we make that abundantly clear without being off-putting to the point where people won't actually have a
Um,
conversation?
so I think it all starts with remembering that everyone wants to be seen, known, and loved, and that nobody also wants to feel alone. And that's going to come into play, especially when you're dealing with an actual pregnant woman, because it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing, like, maybe your roommate comes up to you and like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. If you immediately are like, well, that's a life, that's not going to help her. She's going to be sitting there like, what about my life? And
Yeah.
so saying like you're not alone, that will go a lot farther, and recognizing
Mm-hmm.
we all have struggles. And so one of my favorite stories about having conversations with pro-choice people, Stephanie Gray Connors was talking to a college student after one of her presentations, and he was getting really fired up and mad. And in that situation, at a certain point, you have to just like step back. It's like, this is not productive. I don't deserve to be yelled at. I'm not going to rise to the
Mm-hmm.
occasion and yell at you, because then I'll prove to you that I'm an evil pro-lifer, you know. So what she did was she just stepped back and was like, all right, let's just back it up. Tell me about yourself. And so he kind of immediately calmed down. People like talking about themselves in general, usually, or at least
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes it a bit more of a friendly conversation. And what she discovered in this conversation was that his mom had had an abortion a few months before she became pregnant with him. So
Mm-hmm.
he was sitting there trying to grapple with the fact that if abortion was illegal, he probably wouldn't even be alive. Like, he was literally struggling with his existence. And
Mm-hmm.
so knowing that, she was able to kind of take like a different avenue, and also just like affirm him, where it's like, but you were clearly supposed to be here, taking a different avenue with him. But we have to remember that we don't know why this person's getting fired up, especially in cases of rape and incest. You don't know the history. Maybe this person has a friend, maybe this person has had an abortion, etc. And so it's easy to just think of all the evil and get mad and try to like fight somebody. It happens. But remembering that we don't know why this person feels this way, and just trying to make them actually feel loved. And remember that if we really are pro-life, we think that every life has dignity and is valuable, right? And then that includes the person in front of you who's being a jerk, to say it nicely. And we don't want to rise to the occasion and be a hypocrite and like not treat those lives as valuable.
No, that's really important, and I think it's important for us to check ourselves as well. I mean, we've lost two babies to miscarriage,
Oh.
and after the first loss, I was talking to one of my friends from college online, and I shared that with him when we were having an argument about abortion. And I mentioned, like, I just can't imagine going through this loss and wanting it, like having chosen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a perfectly appropriate reflection, meditation, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. And he said, well, those aren't related at all. And I said, you're not allowed to tell me they're not related at all, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
the pain I'm feeling is a loss of my child, who is a human being. And his response to me, I'll never forget this. He said, well, I can understand where you'd be upset at the loss of the potential life.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like,
And I was
the
like,
potential.
wow. And he's got a doctorate in public health, and
Oh no.
God help us. So it's like, I said, all right, man, I'll talk to you later. So that was the only thing I could do in the moment, because what I
Yeah.
wanted to say to him was not Christian.
Not very Christian. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't, I, I think we just have to check ourselves and be like, okay, what state of mind am I in? Can I even enter into this conversation? And other times we'll be in situations that we weren't expecting, where we have to rise to the occasion. I was at the March for Life in 2018, I think, and I had a bunch of teens from the parish with me. I was leading the trip, and we were in front of the White House, and we had a big banner that we were carrying around everywhere with us. It was all rolled up, so we unrolled it, and everybody got behind it. And I asked this guy standing near me, "Can you take a picture of us?" And he
Uh-oh.
goes, "Oh, okay." And it was very clear that this man did not speak a lot of English, but he was smiling, and I was smiling, and that was enough. And he understood,
Mhm.
let's take a picture. So he takes a picture, and then he looks at the sign, and he goes, what is pro life mean? What is pro life? And I said, well, it
Mhm.
means, we're here for the March for Life, and so it means that we're opposed to things like abortion and euthanasia, and just honoring human dignity, and every single life has meaning and value and worth. And he goes, oh, okay, very friendly. And he goes, what's the other side of that? What's the opposite? And I said, well, that would be pro-choice. And he goes, okay, that would be me. I'm that one. So, okay, interesting. Meanwhile, the teens are like all gathering around in like this semicircle now.
Mhm.
And this guy he had just come from the Middle East. I can't remember what country. And we were having a conversation for maybe 20 minutes in front of the White House with the teens around. And it was awesome, because it was 20 minutes where we were both civil, just having this back and
Mhm.
forth. He was bringing up objections. I was answering them. I was giving some objections to pro-choice arguments. He was answering them. And then I was so proud of the teens too, because he looks at three of the girls who were at this point like inching closer, like just ready.
Mhm.
They had just
Yeah.
gone to a conference the day before. They were like, let's go. So he goes, can I address the girls? And I said, yeah. Girls, do you care? And they're like, let's go. I said, okay, good. And so he turns to them and he goes, what if it was you? What if you were it was forced upon you? And I'm like, do you mean if they were raped? And he said, yes. And I said, well, girls, answer the question. And so they looked at him and they said, well, it looks like we're pregnant. We're going to have a baby, and this is a good thing, and this is something that we should welcome. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And all of the, and it was actually Stephanie Gray that had given the talk the day before, and they just sort of reiterated her entire talk. It was clear that they had digested it, and they gave it right
Mhm.
back to him. I have never seen a man look so confused in all his life, and it was amazing and beautiful.
That's
But
awesome.
that was clearly unexpected. That was not something that
Yeah.
any of us sought out, but it was a good thing, and it was something that clearly they had prepared for. Not just being on the trip, but then also listening to the talk at the conference the day before. So, I mean, what sort of things should we be doing practically to sort of hone our abilities to even have these conversations?
I think it's really a disposition that we have to have of openness and also not being judgmental. Because like I said, like if I'm going to be snarky or if I'm going to be pushy, people aren't going to talk to me on social media, for example. It's when I'm just like, I'm not being neutral. Like they know what side I'm on. But I'm open and not going to judge them. Like people are able to connect with that. But I know that there are plenty there, Catholics get a bad rap for this. We're, fairly judgmental. And so I think that we have to bag the judgment. And that's the only way people are actually going to be able to have a conversation with us. I think that's just like the number one, pretty much the most important one. But you do have to know your resources too. So this is what this is what I usually tell teens, because one, you have to be educated. You actually have to know your stuff. You have to know about some fetal development. You have to know what some of the objections are and how to respond to them. But you also have to know your resources. Like it's one thing to say, you should have this baby, but it's another thing when they're like, but where am I going to get this? And my parents are going to kick me out. And what if mom's addicted to drugs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to actually know who to send them to. So I have little business cards that say you are not alone. And on the back it says pregnant and need help. And there's numbers to call and text. And it's like everyone from Sisters of Life to, our clinic, Life Choices Women's Clinic, and Aid to Women and First Way, and, whoever else. Jacob's Hope is a great organization that takes care of babies born addicted to drugs, and they help them go through withdrawals. And that is really important to be able to say when you have somebody who's like, but mom's addicted to drugs and this baby's going to be born with, born addicted to drugs and suffering, and his life's going to be awful, yada, yada, yada. And to say, well, we can take care of you. That goes a long way. I don't know if you've heard of Myra Rodriguez. You probably have. Have you heard of Myra Rodriguez?
Yep.
So she is the former executive director of Planned Parenthood. And because of her, we know that she used to train her employees to never say congratulations when there's a positive pregnancy test. And they're supposed to walk back into the room with like a look of like, oh. And, if I do that to my toddler, she's going to automatically be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong, mom? And so they're trained at Planned Parenthood to come in and be like, oh man, you're pregnant. And like immediately people are going to freak out. They're trained to not say congratulations. So we as a pro-life people automatically are going to be like, congratulations. Even if this girl is like, oh my gosh, I missed my period, or oh my gosh, my parents are going to kill me. Congratulations. What do you need? How are you feeling? Can I get you something? You are not alone. I'll walk with you. That goes a long way. And not unfortunately, but statistics for when a man says that, like, you are not alone and I will step up, it's something insane. Like 86% more likely, like a woman will be more likely to choose life if a man in her life, not like a boyfriend, but a guy, male friend, steps up and says, you are not alone. She's more likely to choose life. And so that's important to remember. I know that Joel Stepanek has a great story about how he gave a good talk to the guys at Steubenville, kind of rallied them, was like, you need to step up and be defenders of life. Like, come on, men. And then remember that, like, you need to say you are not alone. And so 9 months later, a young man sent him a message on Instagram and it's like, hey, I went to your talk, came home, and my friend, not my girlfriend, my friend said I'm pregnant. And he immediately said, like, I got you. I will walk with you. And then he sent a picture to Joel of him holding his friend's baby. And it's just like the power of saying you are not alone and you are seen, known, and loved, and I will be here with you. Basically just being a decent human being. Let's be real. That could literally save a life.
It's tremendous to me that the answer often can be very simple.
Love.
Yeah, right. Like just solidarity. Like you aren't alone. I think the statistics are, and this is not just Gen Z, but whatever the group after millennials is, or no, it's not Gen A, and not just Gen A, it's Gen Z as Alpha. Well. But the Z generation statistically spends more time at home with their parents than any previous generation in history. And yet they feel the most alone. And I know when I worked at a majority senior parish, the problem of loneliness was so palpable. And I see it in the teens at the school where I work, and I see it all over the place. Like loneliness is a true pandemic. Like it's something that is affecting everyone today, even though we're interconnected and we have social media and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. It doesn't seem to be doing the trick. And
Yeah.
so this human connection of saying you are not alone, it's not just about someone who is facing an unplanned pregnancy. It's really something that everyone wants to hear. Like you said, that idea of being seen, known, and loved is sort of a universal thing, it turns out. But to a point you made earlier, I just want to point people to a resource that I have on Good Distinctions. If you go to gooddistinctions.com and type in the search bar judge actions, there's an article and podcast episode that I have on judging actions, not people. And it speaks to all of this, that we can, in fact, be judgmental of, not judgmental, but we can judge actions, moral actions, without judging people. And that's incredibly important, because if we don't make that distinction, then we're going to be judgmental a-holes and we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
What are 1, 2, or 3 of the biggest objections that you get, maybe from teenagers, when it comes to the pro-life movement? And then how can we respond with charity to not win an argument, but to convert hearts and minds?
So I think that I usually try to say that the majority of pro-choicers have good intentions where they think they're defending the mom, the woman. They have what they think is, I mean, it is like they have compassion for the woman. And that is a good thing. So I try to kind of say, remember that. But the number one, always, pretty much with every youth group, always is rape and incest. And so I usually say, hey, by the way, not by the way, but so I usually try to say incest is kind of just tied into that. I have not heard an argument of abortion because of incest. It's rape and incest. So addressing the rape, we go first and foremost, that should never have happened. I'm so sorry if that happened to you or somebody else. I usually share, I know a lot of people in my life really close to me that have been raped, and it's just heartbreaking, and it's unfathomable that like it should never have happened. It's heartbreaking. So starting there, immediately getting some, reminding them that you are a human. And then I also say like, hey, abortion aside, even let's look at the justice system. Like, what are the consequences for the rapist? I think that they should be harsher. And that establishes also common ground with somebody where it's like, yeah, there should be some actual punishment for the rapist. But we can say, we don't even give the death penalty to the guilty party. Why would we give a death penalty to the innocent party? And so we can go that tactic of being like, yes, we agree. We agree that there should be some harsher punishments. But what about this innocent party? This is a separate life. I also usually share a story of my friend in college who was raped at a party. She was drugged, raped. And people would all the time be like, so are you just going to look at your baby and see your rapist's face? And she was just... praise the Lord, she was like, no, it's not her fault that she was not conceived in love, but she's a separate life. And if we play out that, argument, it's like, okay, so because she reminds you of someone, we can kill her. If maybe Will, your dad, you look just like your dad, and your dad's actually a serial killer that everyone knows about. Maybe there's a Hulu documentary on him. And we look at you and you're like, gosh, dang it, you look just like your dad and he sucks. It's not like we can kill you or do anything about it. It's like a separate life. And then we also, to bring it back to the woman, see, there's like multiple arguments for this. Bringing it back to the woman, because that is very much what they're concerned about, like the trauma of being raped. And why would you let her go through that? Like, are you going to make her go through with this birth and like basically have to carry around evidence of her rape for 9 months? Even if you're going to give the baby up for adoption, that's still going to be such a gruesome, I shouldn't say gruesome, grueling 9 months. And so to that we say abortion is very traumatic. And we've talked to plenty of rape victims who have had abortions, and they say now we have 2 anniversaries that remind us of the other, whereas the rape, my anniversary of the rape and the anniversary of my abortion. And so we say trauma does not heal trauma. And we see it all the time in social media that abortion is painted as this like beautiful, easy solution. The founder of Plan C, she helps really push abortion pills, very long story short. She even has said, oh, this is safer than Tylenol. These abortion pills are safer than Tylenol. And it's just like, well, apart from that being inaccurate, we actually have a lot of stories. Or let's talk about abortion. What is it going to happen? What's going to happen to your body as a woman? Let's not even think about the baby. Let's talk about how your body is going to be affected, and the bleeding and the pain and the risks, and what happens if this, like, you had this complication but you didn't know about it before you took an abortion pill in your bathroom, and also how traumatic it is to see that little baby in your toilet. Because at 10 and a half weeks, the baby already has all of its essential organs. At 12 weeks, the baby's a pretty good size. And we've seen babies on ultrasounds, all of our presentations, almost all of them, we accompany it with a live ultrasound. And it's so powerful when it's like 11, 12-week baby and she's sucking her thumb. And it's like, look, this baby is sucking her thumb. And no one talks about the trauma. And I mean, that's not true. People are speaking up slowly and surely. But in the past, and you know, CNN, for example, they're not going to talk about the trauma of like you're taking a shower and that little baby that was sucking her thumb is now on your shower floor. And just that's also why education is so important, to actually know it's not just a clump of cells. It doesn't look like fuzz. It's actually a little body. And abortion pill companies say that you can take these pills up to 13, like 12 or 13 weeks. They keep pushing it farther and farther along. So yeah, so that's a very long answer for objection number 1. Do you want to weigh in before I go to number 2?
No, go for it. This is I have nothing to add. I mean, this is very, very thorough. I love it.
Okay, I know. I just feel bad
for the content, but I love what you're saying.
I know, yes. Right? I just feel bad that it's such a big chunk of words. So the second one that I get, because again, God bless Gen Z, but they're very concerned about moms. They're compassionate. What about when mother's life is in danger? And first I say, like, that is so rare. Like, I mean, thank you for thinking of that. I'm sure the moms out there appreciate that, but also like, it's so rare that, that we can't take care of mom. And so maybe we'll say like, okay, an ectopic pregnancy, we can talk about the ethics of that. We don't, and for those of you who don't know, an ectopic pregnancy is when the embryo is implanted in the fallopian tube instead of the uterus. So if the baby keeps growing, mom's going to die. And we have to realize ethically, you'll be better at this, but I believe it's the cause of double effect. Is that it?
Principle of double effect.
Principle of there you go. Principle of double effect. Whereas like if we don't take care of mom, she's going to die and the baby's going to die. So we have to take care of mom. And if the baby unfortunately dies because of having to save mom, that is morally okay. But that is completely different than her popping an abortion pill and ending a life. And who knows, maybe one day technology is going to be wild and we can actually take that embryo and implant it. Who knows?
I'm certain we will be able to one day. Right? I mean, the things that they're able to do. Yeah, I think, wasn't it recently that a doctor did neurosurgery on a baby?
Oh, I don't know, but I believe
in the womb.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, and then like, oh yeah, technology will be able to do it someday. So what I usually try to kind of push is like, okay, so you're not really talking about ectopic pregnancies, or even miscarriage management, because people are like, oh, we're going to go into septic shock and die. What I say is like, okay, so you're thinking like cancer. And so there's 2 different ways to answer it. You can say like, well, there is the hero. Like, I mean, think about how, especially in America, we love a good hero. And really what makes a good hero is having an obstacle, but being selfless and choosing others. And so we can, maybe if like I'm 12 weeks pregnant and if I don't get chemo tomorrow, I'm going to die. Again, we can kind of say like, well, we have to take care of mom. Otherwise baby's going to die because baby's not far enough along. But if I'm at 28 weeks and that's the case, we can actually induce, and again, knowing your fetal development and knowing your abortion procedures, it's good to know because we can have baby born. We can induce and we can have a very, very good chance of keeping baby alive and then taking care of mom. And so there was the other one. There's like the cancer, and then no, I think that was it. I have to just scratch out the two different ways to respond to that argument.
All right.
The third one is a combo. Actually, it's not even really the third one. One that I see like a combo of the two is when it's like a young mom. Like I've had kids be like, but what about those 11-year-old moms that, this 11-year-old was raped probably because of incest. And also, I mean, she's only 11. And we do have to be compassionate. And I do say that. I also point out, like, if the girl was able to get pregnant, God designed our bodies in a way that she should be able to bear that.
She's clearly pubescent. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if she's able to have her period, if she's able to get pregnant, she's going to be able to give birth. And we also have to remember that culturally, historically, we used to have babies a whole lot younger. Like Mama Mary was like 13, 14. And so, but again, so we can kind of treat that situation kind of the same way that we would with the rape victim, where it's like, let's talk about how we can take care of you. Let's get you some help. Let's take care of your mental health. You need to get some therapy, but let's walk with you and let's make sure you have everything that you need. Do you need diapers? Do you need someone to go with you to the doctor's appointments? That kind of thing. And the last one that I have is kind of more from college students, because I don't think that teenagers usually go there, but they say if we make abortion illegal, then more people are going to die. Because there's going to be like the back alley abortions. Moms are going to be taking it into their own hands kind of thing. And then all these moms are going to die. So there's going to be more deaths. To which is just not true. And we can say that we can look like even in Arizona, when we temporarily had a blissful short period of time where abortion was illegal after Roe v. Wade. And we had people at the Glendale abortion clinic be like, well, it's illegal. I guess I'm having a baby. And we've seen, like, when it's illegal, people usually are like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try. But then there's also, unfortunately, people like Alyssa Wells, who I mentioned earlier. She was one of the founders of Plan C. And Plan C is this awful company that will pretty much make sure that you can get your abortion pills no matter what. I've gone in and pretended like I was ordering abortion pills, and you can even say I'm 12 weeks pregnant, and they'll be like, cool, your pills will be there in 4 weeks. I'm like, well, I won't be 12 weeks pregnant in 4 weeks. But they also will sit there and walk you through the legal loopholes and how you can get around them. And Alyssa Wells has said basically that this whole back alley abortion thing is a myth, or like that more people are going to die because of these kind of companies. And so even the pro-choice side, one of the founders of this ginormous company who's just trying to, no matter what, make sure that you get your abortion pills, she's even saying that's not true. We are far beyond technology wise. Like we can make sure you have a safe abortion, basically. And that's when she's like, it's safer than Tylenol. So even the pro-choice side is like, no, that's not really a thing. Not everybody, of course, but the at least the founder of this abortion pill company, which I found really interesting.
Well, it seems to me that a lot of these are borrowed arguments from 50 years ago. These are pre-Roe v. Wade arguments that are more or less completely unnecessary today. I mean, this idea that women will just, find a way to do it themselves, that's not true. That's not happening. And if it is happening, it's not happening in any quantifiable numbers. If anything is happening, it's people who are being paid by their companies to just go to another state at the moment. But that aside, there's also one other just little thing that I'll mention. It's not really an argument so much as just a observation, is that when we're talking about rape and incest, especially, there's nothing that rapists like more in terms of control than collusion with Planned Parenthood. Because if you can just quietly get an abortion, right, then you can just keep the human trafficking bit is absolutely connected to all of this. And it's so interesting you brought up, like, even the pro-choice side is saying the facts. Well, like the Guttmacher Institute, which was founded by Alan Guttmacher with Planned Parenthood, even said something, I think it was 60, 70 years ago, that more contraception leads to more abortions. Mm-hmm. Even though they say, well, if we make contraception free and available, then it'll lead to less abortions. So, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of different arguments out there. And in the end of the day, it all boils down to, are people being seen, known, and loved? And is the unborn a member of the human family or not? And the facts don't lie. It is, that is not a clump of cells. That is a human being from the first moment of conception, as you say, from the womb to the tomb. Thank you for taking the time to walk through these different objections and sort of answering how can we change hearts and minds and sort of bring truth to the forefront in the pro-life movement while not being judgmental, while approaching people with dignity and with respect, and recognizing that every life is sacred and there is a way that we actually can still have a conversation. We haven't become too polarized in our society to approach people, to see them, and be able to step back from that precipice and actually have a human-to-human interaction. So thank you so much for coming on. And where can people find more about Life Choices?
So you can go to actually our Instagram at Pro-Life Education. It wasn't taken, and I jumped on that. So we also have a website, prolifeeducation.com, and then our Instagram is at Pro-Life Education. And we also have a upcoming retreat for high schoolers, March 1st to 3rd, 2024, in case you're wondering. It'll be in Prescott, but it's a whole weekend where we dive into all the pro-life topics extensively. We'll have Myra Rodriguez there too, and I mentioned her earlier. And we will have Michael Villanueva from Theology of the Body here in Phoenix. We'll have so many good speakers talking about all the different pro-life topics, and it's almost like a pro-life boot camp. So if you want more information about that, you can also go to at Pro-Life Education to find out more.
Excellent. I love Michael. And everyone listening, go to gooddistinctions.com, subscribe today. Go check out all the resources for Life Choices Women's Clinic. You know, in Phoenix, we have so many different resources to help people in every stage of life, including St. Vincent de Paul, one of the largest St. Vincent de Paul centers in the world, really, here in Phoenix. So lots of things to see in the Valley of the Sun. But Sammie, thanks so much. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Excellent.